Hey everybody, welcome back to another video, and today I'm going to be doing the How I PvP tutorial. I am going to basically be going through UHC duels, Skywars duels, Classic, and OP, and I'll be talking about different things as I go through those, and how I relate to them, and how I PvP with them. So, if you guys enjoy, make sure to like and subscribe, and let's hop into it. Alright, so the first thing I want to talk about is CPS. Now, there's a big controversy about, does CPS matter? Like, if you have a higher CPS, do you get more hits registering? Is it better to combo and stuff? Because there are some really good duels players like Red Archer who use like under 5 CPS, which is, oh my god, this dude is insane. As I was saying, there are really good duels players with under 5 CPS, like Red Archer, and honestly, in my opinion, I think CPS does matter for 1.8 at least. If you're on 1.16 and there's like that stupid cooldown and stuff, I mean, CPS wouldn't matter. You just have to time your clicks and etc. But if you are on 1.8, I suggest clicking relatively fast, because if there's like not a cooldown, like you want to take advantage of that, right? And I honestly think higher CPS is easier, at least for me, to combo on. So that's usually why I try and click fast. I think some people are just really good at whatever feels good for them. But how I do this is I try to go with the highest CPS I can get. Alright, now I'm going to be talking about movement. So, movement. If you run like this and place a block every 2 jumps, it is actually faster than placing a block every single jump, because you are able to jump farther, and each block gives you just a really small boost. So it's actually, it's actually faster to go like that, and also it is actually faster to strafe holding D and W than to just run forward. So if you combine the two, I got this from Intel Edits, by the way, you get this, where you're running sideways and placing a block every 2 jumps. Now this is the fastest way to get away and to run to your opponents, as I know of at least yet, and I try to use that sometimes. You haven't seen me use it in most of my videos lately because I kind of forgot, but yeah, that's a cool tip that I learned from an Intel Edits video, and I'll try to link that in the description. Alright, so the second part of movement is strafing around your opponent for PvP. Now, I kind of recommend, like if you're gonna do stuff like W tapping, like I always do when I PvP, where I just kind of take my finger off W, tap it again. I do that while strafing, and circle strafing against your opponents is really good, because you can like keep hitting them as you kind of run around them, and it's really, like, if you're good at it, you can win a lot of fights because of it. It's a really helpful technique to learn. Strafing just in general for PvP, such as S tapping and W tapping. And for those who do not know what S tapping is, it is basically the same thing as W tapping. So basically here, I'm tapping W and I'm PvPing, whereas now I'm S tapping, where I just kind of take my finger off the S key and then I keep swinging at my opponent. And now my side of it is, I usually try to W tap while circle strafing, so I technically do both in a way. I think they are both very helpful, and if you can do both at once, it really works for me. And then you can try this as well if you don't already do it and it works for you. Alright, the next thing I'm going to be talking about is parkour. So when you're fighting an opponent and they start running away, placing blocks crazy because they are super scared, they're probably going to end up stopping your momentum because you're confused about how many blocks they keep placing. Now, a good thing to practice is just to try running around like the whole map and just not losing your momentum. Like, I haven't hit a block yet, and I've just kind of been running around. So my momentum hasn't been stopped yet. I won the game. Alright, so I thought it would be easier to talk about parkour in a duel with a big area. So like as if you're gonna do a jump and then you don't hit the block. I'm pretty sure you all know what that's like. You hit the block, it stops your momentum. You don't hit the block, it doesn't stop your momentum. Alright, so as I was talking about, try to, if you're gonna chase your opponent and you don't want to do like the strafing thing where you place a block every 2 jumps, then it's a good thing to learn how to parkour around randomly placed blocks without losing your momentum so you can keep gaining on your opponent. Now, this is a topic that's really close to movement, as I talked about before, but now another thing that kind of comes into this is learning your FOV. So the FOV I usually always use is 82, and I always keep my same hotkeys as well as sprint keys and stuff like that. And you want to be comfortable with everything you have, and you want to like stick with it. You don't want to switch it up too much because that can affect your PvP. You want to learn the settings for you, and you want to just use it until you just get really good. I've always had like view bobbing off. I've always had my render distance short. I've always had like this. And then I've always had my hotkeys such as number 1 being my button on my mouse, number 2 my button on my mouse, then I reach to 3, 4 on my keyboard, then I hit Z for number 5, and then I use 1 for number 6, and then I use Alt for number 7, V for number 8, and F for number 9. So I'm a guy who likes a lot of hotkeys because I don't like scrolling on my mouse that much. It just feels like inaccurate and it takes too long, it feels like. So since I don't use the scroll wheel, I have a lot of hotkeys. So if I were to switch up my hotkeys, it would really like put a dent in my PvP for a little bit, because then I would have to learn those hotkeys, and it's just your brain telling your finger to move in a different position than it's been in for like the last long time. And that's really hard because it becomes muscle memory. Like in Minecraft, you're never looking at your hands. So it just becomes your brain knowing what key is on the keyboard and the new hotkey that you have to hit. And that can really mess you up and make you just like choke in a PvP match. So, basically, moral of this, don't change your settings that much. Alright, now the last topic that I'm going to talk about is marathon fights. So marathon fights, I don't even know if that is a proper name for them, are super long fights where you have to be able to run away quickly, gap, and stuff like that. Now this is a much bigger topic than I was talking about before, but when you want to, like, you don't want your hands to be cold. If you're preparing for a long fight, you can't have your hands cold. And also, you have to learn how to place blocks really fast to get away from your opponent. That is one key thing, because if there aren't any G-heads in the game, you have to run away, place blocks if they're chasing you, and then gap. And that's a good thing to learn, that when you're in a fight, you have to know how many hearts you're going to be at to still gap and just make the gap in. So I'd say around 4 hearts is probably when you should start thinking of running away and gapping, because when you run away and gap, by the time they're still hitting you, if they hit you like 3 times or something, that's probably going to do maybe 2.5 hearts of damage. You're still going to have about 2 left because you ran away when you were at 4 hearts to gap. So just like little things like that, getting ready for big fights, and that's basically like how I PvP, and let's just go over that again. High CPS, number 1. Comboing easier without a cooldown on 1.8. Number 2. Movement. Running away while strafing and placing blocks under you to catch your opponents, as well as W tapping and S tapping when you're fighting an opponent. Number 3. Parkour, being able to not stop your momentum, catching up to your opponents, as well as knowing your FOV. Number 4, and the final one, marathon fights, knowing when to run away, gap, and handling a long fight. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you all in the next one. Goodbye.